Good morning. Good morning. In 1990, MIT professor and world-renowned systems thinker Peter Senge received a letter regarding his manuscript for his yet-to-be-published book, The Fifth Discipline, from a man he had never met but deeply admired. And Steve gave us the perfect segue because that man was W. Edwards Deming. And Senge was amazed that in the letter he had received from Deming, Deming had summed up in 2 sentences what he realized he had not quite summarized in 400 pages in his manuscript. And Deming's letter read, "Our prevailing system of management has destroyed our people. People are born with intrinsic motivation, self-respect, dignity, curiosity to learn, joy in learning. And the forces of destruction begin with toddlers. A prize for the best Halloween costume, grades in school, and gold stars, all the way up through the university." What Deming and Senge were both fighting against was the Taylorism that had taken root throughout Western systems of business, industry, and education. Systems that viewed people as disposable cogs in a machine rather than individuals with unique strengths and talents. I'm here today to argue against that same wolf that has taken on different sheep's clothing. Today in education, the Taylorism we face is called personalized learning. The National Education Policy Center at the University of Colorado in Boulder published a brief in April of this year titled Personalized Learning, the Digital Privatization of Curriculum and Teaching. The opening 2 sentences of the brief should cause educators alarm. It read, "Personalized learning is a hot topic. It garners policy-making interest, media attention, widespread implementation. Much of this is driven by focused philanthropic funding, such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, and advocacy from large digital platforms such as Facebook and Google. Tech industry associations that are lobbying our politicians, and investors anxious to cash in on the school market. As a superintendent of a one-to-one school system, I have daily opportunities to see incredibly innovative and engaging teacher and student applications of technology. But I also have a front row seat to the daily bombardment of cold calls and emails from salespeople wishing to pitch me the next solution to failing student academic achievement and teachers who are unable, supposedly, to meet the needs of the students in their classrooms. So now 20 years into the 21st century, we have a choice. Will we start to master technology integration, or will we serve a technological master? We can start by reclaiming the definition of personalized learning. In 2014, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation provided funding for a group of organizations which included charter school advocates and privatization and voucher advocates in developing a contemporary working definition of personalized learning. It read, "Personalized learning seeks to accelerate student learning by tailoring the instructional environment, what, when, and how, and where students will learn. It addresses individual needs and allows students to take ownership of their learning while they develop deep personal connections with each other, their teacher, and other adults." At first glance, it's hard to argue with the sentiments expressed in this definition of personalized learning. And it becomes easy for some well-intentioned educators to hand over thousands and even millions of dollars in some cases to bring this definition to life in their school. Unfortunately, the issues of technology-centered personalized learning don't often come attention until after those checks have been cashed. So let's shed some light on what happens when learning serves the tech rather than tech serving the learning. Frequently, a one-size-fits-all tech platform minimizes or even stunts student and teacher agency. Instead of taking ownership of the learning, students become objects to be manipulated. Instead of a knowledgeable teacher with a personal relationship with each student, a third-party vendor might be making the most critical decisions about what and when and where and why a student would learn. Technology-first personalized learning often takes on a narrow understanding of learning. Students are expected to acquire bits of information and discrete skills. Anything that can't be reduced to a measurable standard is discarded. Additionally, all learning is viewed as sequential, one skill, one fragment at a time. And perhaps the greatest injustice of The Gates Foundation vision and platforms that were designed to implement that vision is that the assumptions about children and learning are those of a mostly white male technology-focused industry. Students are expected to accept that that content is the truth. And even when they may question material that they're learning, they likely sit alone in front of a screen with headphones with no opportunity to interact with other children or a trusted teacher to ask questions. If we are to push back against the definition being forced upon us, by venture capitalists hoping to grab a piece of the almost $8.2 billion annual technology K-12 industry, perhaps we must start with a clearer and more compelling definition of our own. We could start with what Alfie Kohn calls personal learning, the result of a caring teacher working with each child to create projects of intellectual discovery that reflect unique needs and interests of each student. We might look to the state of New Hampshire, where they created a new high school model where students and adults built deep relationships. They met students at their own level, they set high expectations, they empowered students to have agency over their own learning and addressed needs of the whole child. We could embrace the principles of individuality found in Todd Rose's book, The End of Average, and then apply those strategies to both students and teachers. We could embrace the jaggedness principle that recognizes the principle that holds that we cannot apply one-dimensional thinking to understand something that is complex and jagged, such as our students' own learning and the work of our teachers. We could apply the context principle that assures individual behavior cannot be predicted based on a certain context, but that we must look at the traits of the individual and the situation and look at the interdependence of that situation and to understand the context of what's happening. And we could apply the pathways principle, which first applies all aspects of our lives for any given goal, that there are many equally valid ways to achieve the outcome. So what might learning that embraces the principles of individuality and technology at the same time look like? I think it would look something like a recent year-long interdisciplinary project at Decorah Middle School called Water to Thrive, Change for Change. The culminating event of this interdisciplinary year-long project was the development of a well in a community in Ethiopia that before had had none. Over the course of the school year, students dedicated time in every subject area to this project. They researched and learned about water quality by connecting via Skype with experts across the country, and then visited local streams with professors and students from Luther College to examine the water quality in their own local streams and rivers. They connected with that community and members in that community in Ethiopia to hear stories of how women and children had to make daily trips to the river to fetch water. And then they took time in physical education class to walk to the upper Iowa River and carry water back to understand the experience of the people that they had met. Students wrote and created video and audio public service announcements that were played on local radio stations to share their learning and to promote the fundraiser. Students journaled, they solved math problems, they worked collaboratively, they used technology in meaningful ways, they developed empathy, and ultimately improved the world in a meaningful way. Now, months after that project is over and those students have moved on to a new grade level, many of them continue to work to figure out a way that they could fund a trip to visit the community before they graduate from high school. The project happened before I moved to Decorah, but through the conversations I've had with the teachers involved and the students, I feel confident in saying that this was personal learning to each of them. In closing, we are faced with a time in education where technology might enhance or disable professional teachers. We may resist vouchers and privatization at the front door while allowing it to come in through the back door through technology. My hope is that we will embrace the same ideals as Deming did 70 years ago, Senge 30 years ago, and Todd Rose today. We will insist people don't serve systems, but that systems serve people, and that we don't serve the technology, but that technology serves us. Thank you.